Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have a book haul for you. Some big pseudo-religious holiday did happen on the 25th of this month, and because of that people thought it only kind to send me books. Prior to that, however, I did purchase myself some books. So I'm going to begin with two books I saw at the charity shop. Now people might be thinking, Charlie, you did a charity shop haul in December. Do you really have much to add? No, not really. I found two more books at the charity shop that I thought I would particularly like to get my hands on. The first of those is Beyond Black by Hilary Mantel. Basically, I bought this book because it's about a medium called Alison, and this hint of spiritualism reminded me somewhat of the Lollipop Shoes by Joanne Harris, and as you might have seen throughout this month, that is one of my favourite books. And Beyond Black sounds as though it's a very English setting, and this woman seems to be on the run from the past as well as spirits of people that she may or may not have known. I'm not sure whether there is this spiritualist aspect or whether she's just a charlatan or what, or how this book is being presented. But on the back it says it's sparkling, sinister and supremely original. That's from the Sunday Telegraph. Do I really trust the Telegraph? I don't know, but it says it's a ghost story. Winter, I don't know. I like the cover. I like the idea behind the story. It mentioned a medium. I was reading the Lollipop Shoes at the time. I thought, do you know what? This is it. This is the book I'm going to pick up. Did I read it yet? No, because I'm currently trying to get through all of the books that I have unfinished from this year. Next, to mention Joanne Harris again, I got Blackberry Wine, which I originally had this book new, and I gave it to the charity shop unread a few years ago, regret it, so I got this really battered copy. I mean, it's faded, it's yellow. The first chapter of this book is told from the perspective of a wine bottle. I don't know whether the entirety of the book is told from this perspective, but it seems to be telling the story of this person called J. Mackintosh. Other than that, I don't know much about it. However, I do believe that this was originally part of what Joanne Harris called her food trilogy that included Blackberry Wine, 5/4 of the Orange and Chocolat, and this is the only one of those three that I never got around to reading, but all of those books seem to deal with the past and set in small French villages, so we will see how I feel about this one. But it does mention Lansquenet, which I believe was the setting for Chocolat, so I don't know. Then I purchased myself Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I actually got this, I ordered this months ago, but I had to wait for it to come in stock, and it just happened to appear 2 days before Christmas. I'm not really sure what this book is about, apart from the fact it has a trans main character who summons a ghost that he didn't mean to summon. I don't know. You know me. Out with death in it, and I'm getting it. Out with a bit of magic in there, I'm getting it. Death, magic, we got that in abundance apparently, and a lot of people have talked about this and enjoyed it, so I believe Charlie of Charlie Brook liked it. At least I think it was that book. As you can tell, I'm not really one for knowing much about books anymore. I don't research them, I don't look into them. It completely ruined my life knowing every single book that was coming out and what it was about. So now, if I see something and I think, oh, I like the sound of that, I just get it. Right, now we're going to move on to the Christmas presents. Now I should say that apart from we'll do that in a second. So firstly, my manager got me a joke present, which was the RuPaul's Drag Race colouring book and the RuPaul's Drag Race quiz book. Now, both of these books were self-published through Kindle, and this one here, the Drag Race quiz book, actually, which has inaccuracies. One of the questions, the answer that they've got in the back is wrong. They misspell people's names. They have people appearing in seasons that they weren't in, and frankly, yeah, good for D Brooklyn for making so much money off a quiz book they made, but for crying out loud, at least try and proofread a thing first. But hey, my manager wasn't to know. My manager does not watch Drag Race. She just thinks I have an unhealthy obsession with drag queens. It's reached that point of getting the phrase, "I'm worried about you," said all the time. And quite frankly, that's when you realise that you're working in a very predominant conservative area. Right, now let's move on to the books that I received for Christmas. I met up with my friend Joy last Wednesday, and that we had a walk through the cemetery to exchange our gifts for Christmas. I have received off Joy two books that I have never heard of before, nor have I looked at the blurb to see what they're about, so this is going to be an experience for the both of us right now. Firstly, we have In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. It says on the back that this puts Chandler to shame. Are we talking about Raymond Chandler? After the war, cynical veteran Dix Steele has moved to LA, a city terrified by a strangler preying on young women. Oh, so it does seem that it is one of those hard-boiled crime novels from the 1950s. Was this released in the 1950s? 1947. So yeah, it is talking about Raymond Chandler. I actually liked Raymond Chandler, so if Dorothy B. Hughes is competition to that, then I look forward to it. We always... It's also quite short, so that should be fun. Oh. I mean, there's only 7 chapters. No, there's not. Oh, I don't understand this. I'm sure that from my looking at detective novels, during the golden age of crime in Britain, when we had cosy crime novels, the Americans kind of fought back with that and brought out these hard-boiled crime novels where you had the... I can't even remember what Raymond Chandler's detective was called now, but I read a lot of those books when I was in my teens, and I shamefully never heard of this, but I was just getting out what they had in the library at the time. There seems to have been a bit of a shift because I think that cosy mysteries are a lot more popular in the US now. Indeed, you see a lot of them being popularised and brought out. And we have, in Britain, since the 90s, this shift to the more detective-heavy novels. So it's a minefield, but it's always great to look at where certain stories have come from. Then we have Winesburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. This was released in 1919 and it is Sherwood Anderson's masterpiece, a cycle of short stories set in a small Ohio town at the end of the 19th century. Okay, I can understand why I've been sent this book now, because if you didn't know, R. Doris, the series that I've written and released, and An Heir to Murder, the next series, all of my stories are set in the same town. And the ones that I have planned are all set in the same town as well. So a lot of people have got onto sending me books that are all set in one place and are more about a setting than about the actual characters. But apparently this also has some interesting characters in there. So we will see how I feel about this one. Also quite happy that it's rather short, because most of my writer friends know that when I'm writing a book, and at the moment I am currently 50,000 words into the final Doris book at last. When I'm writing a book, I tend to go for shorter books to read in the meantime, because I can get quite het up on not getting much written. It's also a reason that when I'm really knee-deep in writing, I tend to go for short story collections as well, because I can read a short story, put that aside, and then focus on my own work. Because for me, a lot of people don't read books whilst they're writing, I know that. They still read a lot in between, but they worry about it influencing them. I have to have both going on. It's a bit of a symbiotic relationship, really, in which I need to be reading to kind of fuel the writing, because reading gets me excited to write more. I don't know whether there's different parts of your brain or what, but for whatever reason, I need to be reading. And so most writer friends will purchase me short, slim volumes when they're gifting me anything, because they know I need short fiction to head towards. And also, Joy tends to get me books that I haven't heard of that she's enjoyed, and she searches for obscure books, because I tend to be the person who knows a lot about what's coming my way. So, now, I must say, in terms of my Christmas gifts this year, I had to purchase them all, and my parents and grandmother plan on paying me back for the books that I have purchased. My father has paid me back for his portion of books, but I'm currently waiting on the money from other people. So currently what you're about to look at are 7 Christmas presents I purchased for myself. The first book here should come as no surprise to anybody, and that is Let's Do It, the authorised biography of Victoria Wood by Jasper Rees. So Victoria Wood is one of my comedic idols and a person who has inspired my writing of comedy. Of course, I don't think I could ever hope to be as good a writer as her. She managed to add so much subtext to her comedy as well, and whenever I revisit Dinner Ladies, every single time I find something new. Of course, there are her one-woman specials, the sketch shows she did, and indeed, this is the first time with a celebrity upon their death where I've actually felt something of the grief that other people feel. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this book. I wanted it, and I like the idea of knowing more about how she came to write the things that she did. But at the same time, I watched Dinner Ladies' Diaries, which was a documentary about the TV show Dinner Ladies. I've watched other people talk about Victoria Wood, and every time it feels weird because it's not comedy, and it feels weird because it's other people getting the opportunity to tell her story of who she was. So I don't know, but I'm glad it exists. Next, we have a book that I've kept questioning getting, and that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. It's The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is an incredibly popular book. It's done well. It's sold huge numbers throughout the world, and I believe there is even a possible film coming out about this book, which is the tale of people in a retirement home meeting up and solving crimes within their local area. They're saying it's 4 unlikely friends, a shocking murder on the back, and ever since I first found out that this book was going to exist, I knew that I wanted to read it. And whenever I talk about this book to people, they always say, that's the Charlie book. Or they thought I would have written something similar by now. Well, we all know that before An Heir to Murder, I was originally going to write a detective novel about 3 retired detectives coming together and solving a crime. And I tried it for years, it never worked, so eventually I just killed the detective off, and that's what made my story. So you probably will never see that story from me, but older characters in fiction is something that we definitely need to see more of. Older characters solving crime, it reminds me something of, what was it called? It reminds me of the Sunset Grove books that I really enjoyed, and I still need to get the last one because the library never got it in. So yeah, we'll see. I know that Sarah from Hardcover Hearts has read this and enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have enjoyed it, and after I finish it, my grandmother even wants to read it, but I'm not sure whether I'll admit to owning a copy because she's a heavy smoker, and I don't want to inflict that upon one of my books. Then we have The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle earlier this year with Abby of Abby McReads, and there was something in that book where we believe that when we found out about The Devil and the Dark Water, we think it links to Evelyn Hardcastle. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of that book. Oh, it was The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, sorry. I wasn't the biggest fan of that first book in the end. I felt like it built up to something and then it got too much exposition in the end in order to tell the tale, and indeed I never got a proper idea of who the main character was. However, both me and Abby wanted to buddy read this, and so I thought, well, if I can get somebody else to buy it for me, I don't mind reading it. So my grandmother will be paying for this book, and then me and Abby are hoping to be able to buddy read this book at some point in the future. This next book I hope doesn't surprise anybody, and it is Orfeia by Joanne M. Harris, and the illustrations here are done by Bonnie Helen Hawkins. This is one of Joanne Harris's rewritten fairy tales. Previously we have had A Pocketful of Crows and The Blue Salt Road. These are incredibly short folk tales that have this twist that is usually somewhat tragic, and I adore them. Joanne Harris knows a lot about folklore and fairy tale, and it is in every single one of her books that I have read, even if it isn't a main plot point. She's a fantastic storyteller, and the narratorial voice she brings across for these stories really works well. The Joanne M. Harris books are released by a different publisher and are more of her fantastical stories, which is where we now have Rune Marks and Rune Light and the Loki books. Let's find out what this book is about, because I don't know what this book is about. I just bought it based on the author. I keep saying I bought them, but I've just not been paid for them. When you can find me an acre of land, every sage grows merry in time. Between the ocean and the sand, then will you be united again. So begins a beautiful and tragic quest as a heartbroken mother sets out to save her lost daughter through the realms of the real, of dream, and even into the underworld itself. But determination alone is not enough. For to save something so precious, she must give up something precious, be it a song, a memory, or her freedom itself. So yeah, so modern fairy tale, Joanne Harris, fantastic. Next we have A Game of Hide and Seek by Elizabeth Taylor. No idea what this is, I just have decided that I'm going to collect Elizabeth Taylor's works and read them as and when, because she is a writer who I wholeheartedly admire. Let's read the blurb together on this one. So this teenager called Harriet falls in love with VC, and his elusive teasing ways. He goes off to Oxford and she has a photograph that she cherishes. Basically, she gets married when she's older and he reappears in her life, and then they're wondering, is it too late because she still loves him? We will see. It sounds somewhat intriguing and I am sure will be quite marvellous when I get around to it. Then we have The Rain Heron by Robbie Arnott. I read Flames earlier this year and it has gone on to be one of my favourite books. It does everything that I want to in fiction and I would love to be able to write something similar myself at some point. So I had to get The Rain Heron. I don't know what this book is about. I'm not really sure I care to know what this book is about because I have enough faith in the writer after reading Flames that I can't help but feel like I'm going to enjoy this one. And then I got English Pastoral by James Rebanks. James Rebanks wrote The Shepherd's Life and the illustrated Herdwick Shepherd, and they are books about shepherding, and as we know, I'm the son of a farmer and I feel something of a kinship to James Rebanks' books about, but I never do anything with the farming. James Rebanks knows about farming. He left to get educated, then he returned to farm, and The Shepherd's Life is one of my favourite pieces of non-fiction. So when I found out English Pastoral existed, I knew that I had to get my hands on a copy. This book is more, I believe, a love story to the land and discussing the ways of farming and really a celebration of land, but also discussing how that's changing and how it might be getting taken away from us. Farming is always one of those strange things for me in that I can't see myself helping my father at all with farming in future. I can't see a future for myself in farming at all, but I still go and, like I did a few weeks ago, help out just holding syringes and stuff. And he even bought me a pair of wellies for Christmas and has been quite upset that I haven't been up there and walked around in them. But I'm like, you got rid of the puppies, why do I need to be there now? Looking forward to this, and if it's anything like The Shepherd's Life, then I am going to particularly enjoy it. I'd like to say that them's are all the books that I purchased in December or acquired in December, but that would be a lie because the Waterstones sale happened and I spent over an hour on their website going through and picking out all these books that I decided that I needed in my life. And then I told Emily of Novel Novels about this and she said, well, what did you get? And it was about 10 minutes later and I had no idea. So when I get that box, it's going to be a complete surprise to me because I've forgotten everything in there, and that should really go to show that Charlie should not be allowed his wallet after Christmas when there's a sale on. And I know for a fact that I got rid of loads of books out of the basket. I just have an issue. Anyway, for now, them's the books, and I will probably show that box of other books in a haul at some point. If you've read any of these books and think that I should prioritise some over others, then do feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.